Guess what? You have a sphere of influence.
King Jesus, King Jesus.
What do I mean by sphere of influence? Think of sphere like a bubble. I think maybe more like a bubble. Every single one of us has a bubble of influence. And there are people within that bubble. They are coworkers, they are friends, they are family, they are the regular grocery store we visit. Anywhere that people have any form of relationship with you. It could be a strong relationship like friends, or it could be a distant sort of non-relationship like at the grocery store. But it is a sphere of influence. You are in that sphere, and so are other people that you are in contact with, maybe regularly or semi regularly. Why is this important? Because that means you influence them and they influence you. And this regularly happens. And as Christians, we need to be aware of that. When we are influenced by others, that can lead us away from Jesus, that can lead us into sin. So we have to be aware of how we are being influenced by others. While at the same time, we have the opportunity to influence them for Jesus. And this is extremely important. In fact, Paul, he really does talk about this. If we can turn there, 1 Corinthians 7, starting in verse 17. Only let each person lead the life that the Lord has assigned to him, and to which God has called him. This is my rule in all the churches. Was anyone at the time of his call already circumcised? Let him not seek to remove the marks of circumcision. Was anyone at the time of his call uncircumcised? Let him not seek circumcision. For neither circumcision counts for anything nor uncircumcision, but keeping the commandments of God. Each one should remain in the condition in which he was called. Were you a bond servant when called? Do not be concerned about it. But if you can gain your freedom, avail yourself of the opportunity. For he who was called in the Lord as a bond servant is a freedman of the Lord. Likewise, he was free when called is a bond servant of Christ. You were bought with a price. Do not become bondservants of men. So, brothers, in whatever condition each was called, there let him remain with God. All right, so what is Paul talking about? In the context, he's talking about marriage, and we're going to actually get back to that, I think, because that fills in some details. But he gets to this endpoint to summarize that, hey, whatever situation you're in, that's okay. God has essentially put you in that situation in order to be used in your sphere of influence. So he uses the example of different examples. I'm going to use one he uses is slaves. He actually wrote a book in the Bible called Philemon to a man named Philemon who had a runaway slave named Onesimus. Onesimus gets saved, and so Paul wants to send Onesimus back to Philemon, and for Philemon to accept him as a brother in Christ. So we see then he's not even challenging Philemon to set Onesimus free. Why is that important? Because in those days, slavery was different than how we think of slavery today. They were bond servants. They were put in bonds in order to pay back debt. A lot of times, they were prisoners of war. A lot of times, slaves were poor, and they actually, when they were allowed to go free, they didn't want to. They didn't want to go free. They actually wanted to stay if they're getting treated well and being paid well. So, think slavery is a lot different in Paul's day. But the point I'm making is that if in Paul's day, he says, if you were to be saved, if you were to come to faith in Jesus as a slave, then God is doing something in your life to reach perhaps your slave master, to reach the house that you're serving under for Jesus. And that's important. That means some of you, all of us, actually, we're in circumstances to reach people for Jesus with those around us. And that's extremely unique. Think about this reality. You are not an accident from God. That means God knew you would be born, God fastened you in the womb, and he chose this time in the history, however long you think the world is, thousands of years old, millions of years old. God chose this exact time for you to be alive, and he chose in your life this time for you to be saved. Like me, I got saved at the age of 19, so he chose that time. And he chose that for a very particular reason, because you have the opportunity to reach people in your life that others might not be able to reach. Can I say this, Christian? You may be the only person who knows Jesus in your sphere. There might be people within your sphere who don't know Jesus, who have never heard about Jesus, and you are the only one that is able to represent Jesus and share Jesus and his love with them. And since if that's true, you are the only one that they could see Jesus in their whole life. They might not know another single Christian anywhere. They might go to work, not know a Christian. All the gym, the clubs they go to, they might not know a Christian, but guess what? You might be that one Christian in their life. That is wild. You have an opportunity to share with somebody like that. And so that's extremely important. If we get back to Corinthians now, look what he says, starting in verse 16, just before 17, the passage we just read. Look at the context. For how do you not know, wife, whether you will save your husband? Or how do you not know, husband, whether you will save your wife? He's saying in the situations, even with marriage, he's in really the context there, he's saying, hey, I'm going to use husband, for example. If a husband gets saved and the wife is unbelieving, he's telling the Christian, hey, if that happens, if both parties were not believers, like in Paul's day, and then one gets saved, let's say the husband gets saved and the wife does not. The wife does not know Jesus. Paul is saying, do not seek a divorce because of that. Once you're already married, honor that marriage, especially if the wife is willing to live with the husband. The husband should not seek divorce. And then he encourages him, what if you, husband, are the very person that God saved first, because through you, your wife will be saved. Your wife will come to know Jesus. So that's how they should be thinking in their lives, and that's how you should be thinking in your sphere of influence. So what does this do for us? That means that you should be thinking about how you should reach those in your sphere of influence. Most of us are just on autopilot. We should get out of autopilot, turn autopilot on your car off, right? On your life, turn it off, press that button, turn it off, and then go into manual mode, go into intentionality, so that you are beginning to think about, how can I reach people around me? How can I share Jesus with them around me? I want to give you some tips. So how do we share Jesus with those in our sphere of influence? First and foremost, live like Jesus. Live holy and righteous. That means stop sinning. That means live a moral and upright life so that people can't point fingers at you. There's nothing worse than a Christian that everybody can point fingers and blame them for being horrible, for being immoral, for being full of sin and wickedness and vileness. At least let's clean up our lives so that when people look at us, they can't point fingers and it be true. Okay? And then number two, live out the fruits of the Spirit. Galatians 5, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, long-suffering, gentleness, self-control. All of these things are the fruits of the Spirit. And what does that mean? That means live out Christ-like character. When people mock you, just be joyful about it. Don't retaliate. Don't walk around defeated or angry or with you look. How much of Christians, we go to work and we just look angry? One of the worst things that can happen is if somebody in your life doesn't know you're Christian and then they find out and they said, I would have never guessed. That hurts. We don't want that. They should say, you know what? You did seem different. That should be how they respond. So live holy and righteous and revealing and manifesting the fruits of the Spirit. And number two, pray for them. Those in your sphere of influence, that guy at the grocery store, the guy in the gym that you always see, or the girl in the gym that you always see, or your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your friend's friend, your brother-in-law. These are all people in your sphere of influence. Pray for them. If they don't know Jesus, start praying. God, open their eyes. God, open their hearts. Let us be people that are actually praying for those around us. Number three, share Jesus when opportunities arise. This is important because also we should be intentional about creating opportunities. Let's just say the person at the gym. Maybe you have a great church. Get some church cards. Hand out church cards to them, or if you see a cross on there, maybe they notice you guys have had a little, hey, how you doing today? Good working out, right? And then you notice they have a cross on their thing, and you could, hey, what's up with that cross? Are you Christian? Do you follow Jesus? And maybe like, yeah, and that could strike up a conversation with people. Let us be intentional. Maybe your mom, maybe you could talk to her. Hey, mom, you know what? I've been going to church for a while, and I'm wondering what is your thoughts on Jesus? Or your uncle. Hey, uncle, I heard you used to go to church a long time ago. Um, why not? What's going on? And then those opportunities can present themselves. Or sometimes just by practicing the fruits of the spirit, maybe some person in your life can come to you and say, hey, I heard you going to church. Why do you go to church? What is it about Jesus? These are rare, but they happen. But be seeking those opportunities and take them when they arise to share Jesus with others. And number 4, this is actually coincides with number 3. Though we are to share Jesus and look for opportunities, we don't want to be overbearing. So be careful not to push Jesus on people. I think a lot of new believers do this. I used to do it myself, especially with those in our sphere of influence, even the closer we are with people, family, close friends. If they see us all the time, we can't always preach Jesus. That's not a way to live. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. That that will push people away. Instead, we should just be Jesus to them. The closer we are to somebody, I think the less we should preach to them and more we should act. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't preach the gospel. There's this age-old saying, this adage that used to be said, preach the gospel and when necessary, use words. I get the understanding of that. We should preach the gospel. Faith comes by hearing and hearing through the word of God. We share Jesus with people. We give them answers for questions, things like that. But there is some merit in that. The people that are really close to us, how many times have they heard us share Jesus? I know that in my life, when I was a new Christian, people got tired of me sharing Jesus with them. So it reached the point where sharing became a negative thing. So I actually had to pull back and I had to wait for those opportunities. I had to pray for them. I had to just be a light, and I found that people would come to me for prayer and for advice. And then, like I could say this now, I've been saved 20 years. I got saved in 2005. Just a year and a half ago, my brother got saved. My sister got saved and baptized. And those are 2 people I've been praying for 20 years. So, you never know how God can work and how long it takes for God to work on people's lives, but he does. He works. Number 5, it's very similar, I guess, to the other ones, to being intentional, seeking opportunities, is actually just invite. And this goes to, I think, this idea of evangelism. Evangelism is a gift of the Spirit, right? There are people who are exceptionally gifted at evangelizing. There's people that are just outgoing that can do this a lot easier. I understand that not all of us are going to be the greatest evangelists, but that doesn't mean not all of us should that we shouldn't evangelize. I think we're all called to evangelize in some way, shape, or form. Evangelize is a general term for sharing the gospel, sharing Jesus with people, winning people over. And so I think the best way that I've noticed we're in 2026 right now at the time of this recording is invitation, especially with those close to you, friends, family, coworkers that you see on a regular basis. Invite them. Invite them to church. Hey, come check out my church. And if they say no, keep inviting them. I know a guy who invites people until they come, and then they show up. And I actually know a person who got saved through that in his constant inviting her to church. She came to church and she ended up getting baptized. It was amazing. So you never know through your invitation what can come out of it. Invite them to worship nights, invite them to Bible studies, invite them just to hang out with you, invite them to coffee, invite them to be friends, like develop these friendships. And again, don't do it just to get them saved, although that's important to do that to build relationships with them, to be Jesus to them through friendship. And those friendships need to be genuine. So hopefully I've given you some tips. Hopefully I've opened your mind and your heart to the reality that you have a sphere of influence that is unlike anybody else's who has ever lived. You are in a sphere of influence, and you can influence people in specific people that no other person has in the history of the world. Your sphere of influence is completely and utterly unique to you. And don't let that go to waste. Again, if you like my videos, subscribe, like them, share them. Let's keep growing this channel. We're growing steadily. I'm so grateful for all of you guys.